In the previous clip, I discussed the individual's functionality as a complete and distinct electrical system. And as intimated in that clip, I discussed that we comprise a mass of atoms, and these atoms are the components that make up our electrical system. So we function based on brain and body, electricity, and as long as we are alive, this is the only way that we function. We die when we cease to function as electrical systems. So a person is pronounced dead when that person ceases to have electrical activities in the brain. So the existence of electricity is how we live. It is the power or the energy that sustains us and keeps us alive. I also confirmed in that clip that humans and living organisms are electrical systems that interface with other electrical systems in the electromagnetic field. Each individual has a specific and unique ionic state, and I discussed that the ionic state is the state at which the person is charged, and there are positive charges, negative charges, as well as neutral charges. What I did not say in that clip is that these charges vary across the body and the brain, so that there might be some parts of the body and brain where there are positive charges happening to attract ions or atoms, pardon me, and there are other parts that are discharging. So the receiving or the charging and discharging process is a continuous process that occurs throughout the body and the brain, even as we live and we exist. And the unique and specific electrical system that makes up an individual is, or are rather, definable as that individual. In religious and spirituality, or religious and spiritual philosophers, define the unique, identifiable electrical system that defines an individual as the individual's spirit. Now, we interface with the environment, and the environment comprises the electromagnetic field. The electromagnetic field is an energy field in which thoughts, emotions, and feelings of living organisms, including humans, reside. The electromagnetic field is the arena in which we live. The electromagnetic field is also referred to as the spirit realm by religious and spiritual philosophers. Now, in this clip, I would discuss the spirit's functionality, and I did identify that the spirit is the electrical system, and I will discuss how we function as electrical systems in a specific function known as adapting or functioning as an adapter. Now, the process of adaptation is something that was hypothesized in the theory of evolution, and there is a widespread belief that humans and other species evolve via a process called adaptation. The process of adaptation could only happen if humans and other species adapt. It means that we are adjusting and changing based on environmental dynamics. This ability to adapt points to an innate ability to adjust to the environment, and it points to the fact that we act as adapters in the environment. Now, how do we function when it comes to acting as adapters? We are informed in science by geneticists and a group of scientists also known as epigeneticists. Geneticists, they talk about our genome or our genes, and the epigeneticists, they talk about our epigenome. And what they're saying is that the epigeneticists, what they're saying is that we change and adapt not based on genes, but on the environment, epi meaning surrounding the genes or things that are outside of the genes. And there are three basic positions that are held by these groups of scientists. Geneticists claim that we adapt based on the environment and that this is a process called genomic change. There are also some geneticists known as epigeneticists, and they argue that the environment is what causes the change, and they refer to this as the epigenome or outside the genome. And some geneticists, both geneticists and epigeneticists, think that over time our genome, our gene pool of genes changes based on environmental conditions and how we adapt. So in the long run there is change that is happening, and in the short run there is also change. And very significant in understanding these change processes is understanding how we function in terms of passing on traits, characteristics, and behaviors through our generations, either intergenerationally within the same generation or intragenerationally. And several studies have shown that the environment can cause changes in the way we function, in the way we behave, our characteristics and our traits, up to 4 generations. We have had several studies, basically animal models or ethological studies, identifying these changes. Now, because people who are religious and spiritual philosophers refer to these changes or the environmental conditions as spiritual conditions, if a religious philosopher or spiritual philosopher, and by that I mean maybe a pastor or a pundit, an imam, a leader, an elder, however the person is called, or whatever the religion is, they would look at the epigenome as spiritual, because the epigenome is what exists in the environment, and what exists in the environment exists in the electromagnetic field, and the electromagnetic field is the spirit realm. So by that reasoning, they will say that those changes happen as spiritual changes. But those changes could only happen because we have an innate ability to adapt. What then is an adapter? An adapter or adapter, there are 2 spellings to the word, effects change by converting attributes of one electrical device or systems to those of an otherwise incompatible device or system. So if you think about 2 systems, 2 electrical systems, one positive, and that might be a positive vision, a positive dream or hope, and then you meet another dynamic, an electrical system, whether it is an individual or group that is negative or has a negative charge to what the one with the positive charge ones, there are two incompatible devices in that particular scenario. And what adapters do, they are able to adjust to ensure that compatible and incompatible fuse in a specific way to ensure the manifestation of dreams and visions. So therefore, an understanding of the two principles. The second principle by which they adapt is to adapt the physical form of one connector to another, so that we find that, let's say for example, there are people wanting to be accepted by a group. It might be a peer group, or it might be an ethnic group, or it might be some group that the individual like likes. The individual likes this group and wants to be a part of this group and want to be recognized as part of that group. Then the individual changes so that the connection happens more easily. So by the process of making incompatible and compatible work together, or by adapting the connectors, by those means we have dreams and visions being manifested in our lives, and understanding these dynamics and applying them in unique and specific ways will assist individuals in achieving their goals and their destinies, as well as to engage their attraction mechanisms in such a way that it serves the purpose that it should serve. And remember, even though I use examples of physical occurrences, like when I talk about the adapting by changing the culture, the cultural adaptation, whether it is dress or speech or behavior, modifying it to adapt to another group. That's a physical change. But behind all of these changes, there is the spirit or the electrical system that is functioning. And what we want to focus on when we are applying these principles is the electrical systems, or what we call the spiritual systems, that undergirds these types of behaviors as adapters.